morning. Welcome to Mirador Television, broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, East Sussex. And a new little intro there. You saw the Sussex flag, which comes from Norman times.
I don't think I didn't notice that. I've never seen the Sussex flag, even though I've lived here my entire life.
Oh, the Sussex coat of arms. Yes, indeed. And on special occasions, it does flutter. So keep your eye open for it. No, it's not there. No, actually, I saw something. It's actually the van, the school bus for the old grammar school, which has embedded into it some of the priory emblems, because initially the school was set in the park in Potter's Wheel in Southover Grange Park, and so they have embedded it into their own coat of arms. Anyway, that is an aside issue, just because we looked through the window and we saw what was happening outside. And that is the wonderful thing about broadcasting from the White Hart. We're able to look out of the window and see the busy streets that go past the hotel and that are part of our everyday life. But I think that we will, the mighty Max has reminded me, we've got a pretty full day today. Coming up at 10 o'clock or thereabouts is Liza Page, who is going to join Max as co-host. And believe me, she's got some very strong and serious views on a number of issues. She and Max don't always see eye to eye, which is great. Max and I don't see eye to eye. Stuart and Max don't see eye to eye. I don't see eye to eye with either Liza or Stuart. So all in all, we are full of turmoil here, but you get a consensus, right?
Out of everyone, I agree with Liza the most a lot of the time.
Yeah, you're more in tune with Liza. I agree. Okay, but conflict is what it's all about, and conflict is what we've got, because this man is making a threat is threatening now nuclear war in Ukraine. The headlines actually analyze it as saying that he's on the run, and that because he's on the run, he will not back down. And I've been saying that about him, having worked and lived a little bit in Russia, is he will not back down. And he is threatening now, because he's been put to flight in many areas by Ukrainian troops, to raise the stakes to nuclear war. Joe Biden and Liz Truss are both in New York for the opening of the United Nations General Assembly, and they indeed have immediately, Joe Biden has already made a speech and said, watch it, nobody wins in a nuclear war. And Liz Truss is about to say, apparently today, when her maiden speech to the United Nations is, stop it, Mr. Putin, stop it. So we'll see whether words have an effect. Shall we look at the headlines?
Yeah.
Front pages? Right. Financial Times. Putin makes nuclear threat as he mobilizes the army reserves for war. And what basically the detail is that the paper has is many front pages, apart from the Financial Times, focus on Russian President Vladimir Putin's threat to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. The Financial Times reports he claimed they would use nuclear force if the territorial integrity of Russia was threatened, and called for a partial mobilization of 300,000 reservists. The paper says the warning sparked alarm in the West, but notes that some have described the call-up, which are really reservists or conscripts, as a sign of weakness. In other words, he's tested his resources to the limit, and now he's having to call on the non-professional soldiers. Right. Where do we go next, Mr. Max? Right. The Guardian. Biden condemns Putin's imperial aims as Moscow raises the stakes. So there, the paper reports that Joe Biden has condemned Putin's imperial ambitions and threats to deploy Russian nuclear arsenal in Ukraine. Speaking of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Biden sought to unite the international community and described the invasion as being about extinguishing Ukraine's right to exist. There we are. Strong stuff from Joe Biden. And we on this program have sort of said, what a wishy-washy character. But perhaps cometh the time, cometh the man. Perhaps he's going to turn out, Max, to be a bit stronger than we thought.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Right, Max is not convinced. Words are not bending our Max. Right, the Times. Biden condemns Putin's nuclear threat to the West. Is it just a bit?
Very, very strong statement. Nuclear war bad.
Well,
very strong statement.
Yeah, where's that? Oh, that's your statement, or are you saying
No,
the Biden statement?
Yeah.
Right.
Nuclear war bad.
Biden's condemnation on his declaration that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. The paper notes that his own rare televised speech to the Russian people, Mr. Putin claimed, without evidence, the West itself has engaged in nuclear blackmail and said this is not a bluff. Actually, when he says it's not a bluff, I don't believe it is. The only thing is that if he uses nuclear arsenal in Ukraine, what will our response be? That's the point. It's all very well to escalate it to global proportions, but he's talking about Ukraine still. Are we going to raise it to global proportions? I don't know. The Daily Mail. We won't be cowed by Putin's nuclear threats. That's the headline. After the desperate Kremlin leader warns West of Armageddon, oh, I've got the hiccups again, if he's thwarted on Ukraine, Liz Truss issues a defiant riposte. And that is the headline, we won't be cowed by Putin's nuclear threats. Whoops, oh dear. What a hiccup. The Prime Minister will warn Mr. Putin he will never win. It's a desperate threat to go nuclear. The Mail reports that she is set to join Joe Biden in denouncing the Russian despot at her own speech in New York, where the crisis ended up dominating the first bilateral meeting between the UK and US leaders. So they had their own private get-together, and that's what they talked about, is the nuclear threat. The Daily Telegraph. Desperate Putin will be defeated, says Truss. And what the guts of the story is, the Telegraph says Ms. Truss's first speech at the United Nations as Prime Minister, it's still to come. It's coming today. She will say, the world is experiencing a decisive moment in the history of freedom. It also reports that 5 British people captured by Russia have been released as part of a prisoner swap negotiated by Saudi Arabia. Wow, there we go. The Sun. As Putin's war stutters, good news and, in a play on words, Vlad news. The good news is that 5 British POWs are free in Ukraine. The Vlad news is that rattled tyrant threatens nukes. And under the headline, Good News, Vlad News, the Sun reports that among the 5 were Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner, who had been sentenced to death by a Kremlin-backed kangaroo court in occupied areas of eastern Ukraine. The paper says the group, which also includes a captured aid worker, landed safely in Saudi Arabia after the surprise deal. Right, there we go. Okay.
Can I just say, I'm 99% sure there will not be a nuclear war.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't believe it. I just don't think it's. likely thing to happen. I think it's all just talk.
Okay, I'm not saying one way or the other whether you're right or you're wrong. The only thing is, of course, is that was said about Hitler in 1937, 38, which turned out to be just talk, and then something desperate that happened. The big problem, I think, with our leaders, with any sort of leader, is as with Hitler, is he said one thing and did another, and every time he did that, nobody did anything. Now,
A politician said one thing, then did something else.
yes.
Wow.
Well, with all due respect, is he conquered half of Europe and put a lot of people into really. I mean, first of all, he slaughtered millions of Jews. He put a lot of Eastern Europeans whom he didn't see as being matching up to the Hitlerite view of a German Superman into concentration camps. And he launched a war that cost millions of lives. So, we have to be very careful that we don't just say, oh, well, politicians say one thing and do another. Because when they do, normally it has dire consequences. Will Vladimir Putin actually do what he says, or is he just full of hot air as well? I do tend to think like you, Max. I do tend to think we're not going to have a nuclear war, that common sense will prevail. But in desperate circumstances, desperate people do desperate things. And I think that the assessment by the experts that Putin is on the back foot, that he's been dealt a bloody nose when he didn't expect it, and that his reaction may well be knee-jerk, and that he would start something before he thinks it through. And to be quite honest with you, his large strategy was to recreate the old Soviet Union. That was the large strategy. But in putting it into practice, he's shown a great lack of judgment, particularly in the strength of his own ability to take over some of the old the old Soviet Union's satellite states. So I think that it's more than just a simple, there will not be a nuclear war. I think it's very complicated. Okay, Russians see red at Vlad because there are some people who, in actually Moscow itself, which I think is a bit of a surprise, protesters shout, "Send Putin to the trenches," and that they've arrested. So how many actually went into the streets? I have no idea, but they've arrested 1,300 people from marching against the president. So Russia itself is in turmoil. Okay. Can I just see what the Metro said in detail? Russians see red at Vlad. The Metro reports on the outbreak of protests in Russia following Mr. Putin's announcement about nuclear war. The paper says more than 1,300 people have been arrested in at least 38 cities, with some heard to shout, "No war," and send Putin to the trenches. So there you are, Vladimir. That's what your own people are beginning to think of you. The eye. Russia and NATO have tried to wage war on the cheap. Now we're heading for total war. Warning. Yes. Okay. That is a sort of a boxed headline on the eye, but then its major headline changes attack. Warning over the Truss gamble on tax cuts. And basically, what it reports is, or suggests, is that let's see what. Have warned that Ms. Truss's gamble on tax cuts risks damaging the value of the pound. The paper says the Institute for Fiscal Studies.
The value of the pound is already damaged, so how?
Yeah, but a currency. I mean, we could find out that a dollar only fetches 98p, just because it's gone down to 1.2 or 1.1 or whatever. Yes, it's damaged, but it could be damaged further. I mean, what this government is banking on is its economic policies will start to restore a value to the pound. What they're saying is it may be in bad shape now, but it could get worse. And it said the plans to reverse national insurance and corporation tax increases could lead to government debt spiraling out of control. Of course, one of the things that isn't discussed anymore it's not in the headlines, is how much COVID and lockdown has cost us. And my question is, how much is it still costing us? Because there is little evidence that people are going back to work. They're still on their 4-day week, 4 days at home and 1 day in the office. And I said yesterday, he's an odd character, Rees-Mogg. But what he said is he said to his department anyway, listen, if you ain't coming into the office, I'm going to sell them. So you won't have an office to come back into, or at least if you do, it'll be a back room in Westminster.
That's quite funny, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, what is with Jacob Rees-Mogg? Because he is.
Well, his father was a lord. I think he sat in the House of Lords, because I once met him in the House of Lords.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the trouble is, of course, is, as you well know, I'm no spring chicken. And I've experienced so much in my life. Sometimes things merge. But I am quite sure that when I met Rees-Mogg Sr., that it was in the House of Lords.
You met his dad?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, his dad was also a very prominent politician. So the family have a tradition of being politically active. Right. So the Daily Express. Your doctor must see you in 2 weeks, right, Max? How did you? How you had recent experience?
Headline.
Okay.
All right. So I recently fractured my wrist. I went to the doctors yesterday. Got an in-person consultation. Imagine that. An in-person consultation. That's the first time in 2 years. And they said...
Did you recognize him?
No, I don't. I never have the same doctor. But anyway, what's the saying? Oh, yeah. So I went to the doctors, and the doctor said, we can send you in for surgery, but it'll be in 10 days. Not surgery, sorry, my bad. X-ray.
Right.
I don't know why I said surgery.
So it's going to take 2 weeks.
10 days, yeah.
Yes. And what did they say about the pain? What did they suggest? How they treat you for the pain?
Painkillers.
Just take painkillers.
Yeah.
Until you get the X-ray.
Yeah.
And then you get the X-ray.
So no, I'm not going to do it. I can't be bothered. So what I'm going to do is just going to go to Boots after work, buy a wrist support and some painkillers, and then there we go. That's done. Because
well, the fact is that it bones particularly a young man like you, because you are. If I fracture my wrist, it would take months to heal. With you, it will heal quite quickly, and it is painful. But strangely enough, I had not a stress fracture. When I was 13, playing rugby at school, I was tackled and I fell awkwardly, and I got I always said a broken arm, but it wasn't. It was a fractured arm. And I must say that I was back within 3 weeks. I was back pumping. You will be back pumping within 3 weeks. I would take 3 months. One of the things about getting old, Anyway, but generally speaking, Max, have you not seen your doctor because you haven't asked to see him, or you haven't asked? Actually, Max is a pretty healthy young man, and in fact, he's you got all your bits and pieces together. There's nothing falling off you that I'm aware, and he is working with young Steve on a health program, and they've got to review how they're going to handle it now, because with Max with his arm in a bandage or a sling.
No, it won't be in a sling. It'll just be a wrist support.
A bit of wrist support, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, the fact is, you can't really see it on telly, but we have noticed that in going to the gym, that Max already has started to bulk up. The top part of his body is beginning to shape out, and we can see the difference already. So your efforts to make yourself nice and healthy are well appreciated, I think. And the one person always never to see it is you. Because you're looking at yourself every day in the mirror and you don't notice appreciably the difference. We, on the other hand, only see you sort of once couple of times or 3 times a week, we notice the difference in you. So there you are. He's getting himself. Listen, he's got a girlfriend. So
I don't want to.
we don't, well, he's got a girlfriend.
I
So
don't want to
so he cannot be. I'm not going to talk about it for God's sake. He is not. Shut up, for God's sake. Jesus, you yap about nonsense, right? Leave your comments for the astute things which you say, right? He's not somebody that you should rush into the studio to meet girls. He is taken, right? Okay. Your doctor must see you in 2 weeks. The Daily Star.
Okay, this one's interesting.
Now, this one got him going. Yeah, come on.
Hmm?
Come on.
Oh, I'll read it. Okay.
Yeah.
So from Daily Star, Royal X-Files is the headline. And then the headline, the extra headline is, what's that second word saying?
E.T. Throne.
Oh,
home.
E.T.
It's a play on the words
home.
E.T. phone home. So what they're saying, E.T. throne home. Yeah.
Okay. Investigators call for space-obsessed Prince Philip UFO dossier to be open to the public.
Right.
Apparently, Prince Philip was obsessed with UFOs.
According to the Star, he was. You actually have taken rather more of an interest in UFOs than the average, haven't you?
Yes.
Did you know that Prince Philip was an aficionado of UFOs?
Heard anything about
No, I haven't.
But I think this is a bit odd and suspicious, if I'm honest.
You think that the dear old Daily Star is making it up?
No, I don't think the Daily Star would ever make anything up or exaggerate.
Oh, you don't think so?
I don't think so,
no. Right, good old Daily Star. Well, anyway, it will be interesting to see whether that's followed up at all. I mean, investigators, it doesn't say who these investigators are. I wonder if it does, actually. Let's just read the summary of the thing. Taking a characteristic left field approach, the Daily Star leads with claims that the late Duke of Edinburgh was obsessed with space and had a cache of secret UFO documents. Under the headline, E.T. Thrown Home, the paper reports investigators have called for Prince Philip's alien dossier to be open to the public. Doesn't say who these investigators are. So it could be anybody. It could be you, for all I know. Have called upon these files to be let loose. If they exist, who knows?
If I'm honest, Prince Philip does seem like the kind of guy to be obsessed with UFOs.
I don't know. He talks to trees.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I said he seems like the kind of guy to be obsessed with UFOs.
Right, if you talk to trees, you won't be obsessed with UFOs. But the Star does quite frequently return to Little Green Men, and perhaps deep down, perhaps that they do feel that they've got evidence.
How do you feel?
We're not alone.
No, definitely not.
We're not alone.
Do you think they're visiting Earth?
That I have no idea. I mean, the suggestion is that to be able to travel at the speed required and to go through the wormholes and so on and so forth requires a huge technological knowledge, which we don't have. Now, if in fact there are advanced societies on various planets that are able to do that, and not just in science fiction, then yes, we easily could have visitors from outer space, no question. But does it figure, or does it follow necessarily that people who are on another planet would be technologically advanced? Does it follow that they are interested in what's happening in space? There are a lot of ifs if we're going to have people from outer space. Perhaps it happens, perhaps it doesn't. I do keep a reasonably open mind. I'll tell you one thing that I have said is when Hitler's troops appeared on the French coast and the invasion seemed imminent, the churches in Britain were packed full. And if we get a real smidgen of evidence that there is a possible alien life and that it is hostile is you watch the churches fill again. It will reignite the spirituality, which I believe is in all of us and innate in our society. It's just dormant at the moment because, well, for the reason that everything else is dormant. Okay, those are the papers. The back page is all about football in Qatar. People are just, the sports writers are just beginning to wake up to the fact that Qatar is a naughty part of the world. And
only just realizing?
They are only just realizing.
Did you say the footballers?
Yes.
They're not only just realizing. They aren't. There's no way that is true.
What's true?
That they only just realize, Qatar might actually not be a very good place. Of course, they already knew that.
Well, they haven't been very vocal about it until now.
Of course not. They've not been vocal about it because of how much money they're getting.
Well, then in that case, you make the point that they really, now they're making a fuss. Why are they making a fuss now? Why are they talking about having pretty patches on the arms of our players? Right? Well, you take a look at the patch. There you go. That's what we are saying that we're going to wear. And the funny thing is that with this patch, which is a heart and a multicolored rainbow, we can't do without that, can we? In what do we call it? Variety, not variety.
Pride. The pride flag.
Well, it's pride, yeah, but we have a word for the fact we want a lot of strands in our life, in our society. Never mind.
Inclusion.
Yeah, that's it, being inclusive and so on and so forth. So now our footballers are going to wear that on the idea that it will have some.
So the armband here. There you go.
Yeah, it'll have some impact upon the rulers in Qatar. Give me strength. Whoops. Oh, I do need strength. I've got the...
I'm wearing a badge to save the world.
Yes, that's right.
Come on.
Yeah.
Don't play there. If you really feel that way, don't play there.
Exactly. You've got it spot on. But the sports writers will never say that, of course.
For the money.
All right, Max, let's go take a trip down to the park, shall we?
Yes. Sorry.
Well, here we are back again, and the headlines not terribly promising this morning. The threat of nuclear war. Max says he's 99% sure that we won't go to a nuclear war.
Of course we won't.
And I wish I could be as sure about that as he is. The thing is that we can't envisage nuclear war, but it only takes one side to hit the trigger. And the only thing I think that is he is saying he will use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. And it seems to me that there was a story 2 or 3 weeks ago, Max, I don't know whether you remember it, that the Russians already had used nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Do you remember that?
No. Surely that would have been like front page every newspaper, world news.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? you and I have been discussing with all the crises here, you wouldn't believe there was a war on in Ukraine. We got very, very little information from it, and it fell out of the public's conscience.
We got all the information in the first month or two, and then
it becomes ho hum.
Well, what happened was it was the same with COVID. They went on about it so much, everyone just went, "Oh, I don't care. I'm fed up with this. I don't want to hear it."
No, that's right, but it doesn't. The reality was that war carried on, and in fact, most people I would venture to think did not think that that it was going to develop quite the way that it did, and that the Russians would actually sweep through Ukraine and take it over as a country. In fact, I believe that there is some suggestion from the intelligence services that they had already got somebody to take over as the president and put in a puppet parliament and so on and so forth. Well, none of that has come to pass. So we are sitting here with a cornered animal, if you like, in Mr. Putin. And the trouble with is a cornered animal. I mean, you can take the most docile animal, but if it's cornered and if it's protecting its young particularly, it will lash out. And you don't quite know how it's going to lash out. That's the situation, I think, that could arise from this. Putin is not a man who takes criticism lightly. He reacts. Well, I mean, people marching in the streets. 1,300 people arrested already for doing that. So the authorities are cracking down on it. Right, you are. Let's. Shall we? Where are we? It's 9:03. 9:03. Have we got a little something to play, Max?
Yes, I could try have a look for the rest of that bear video.
Yes, okay. Let's see if it's there.
Keep going on because I want to look for it.
Right. While we're searching for something that we'd like to show you, or to pick up where we left off yesterday with it, good morning. In the background, Liza Page has arrived, ready to prepare herself for her appearance in about 3/4 of an hour's time. God bless her. How are you this morning, my dear? Very well, and she's looking gorgeous as usual. What we've got the team assembling this morning. We've got the team assembling, and lots of things going on. But in the shadow of headlines, I think we would have preferred not to have seen in this day and age. But nonetheless, that have started to come good. Perhaps that's the wrong phrase. Come good, have come true, if you like. Have come true. We have a leader who is seriously. Let's put it this way: his threats are taken seriously enough. Seriously enough to have a major speech by Joe Biden made at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, and for Liz Truss. I had to think of a moment. Liz Truss to make her debut speech on today.
It is the thing we were looking for. Oh, I forgot to take a call. Is this it?
I don't know.
It must be. Well, if it's not, we'll watch this anyway.
Okay, yeah. It's a grab bag today. Grab bag.
We were trying to find the story of when you were chased by a bear.
Yes.
We can't seem to find it. But hopefully this is interesting.
Yes. I have to say that we do work very hard on this station. And we quite often, when we get around to doing the sorting things for the next day's program, is we are very, very tired. So we don't do a very deep job hopefully, as we move on now, because we are getting a bit more sophisticated, a lot more sophisticated, is that our preparation will get better and better and better, so that we can find these things. But anyway, yeah, let's see what this is, shall we? I was just down the corridor and I was trying to do a few dance steps. Me, I have to do them in private. I'm just awful. And two gorgeous ladies came along and started to laugh. And I don't blame them.
This is
they said,
the dancing one.
We will teach you to dance.
Let it run for this one.
By the end of this program, they're going to. A new program about professional dancers. Not me. Here they are.
Hello everyone and welcome to this brand new program where we're going to be talking about all things Strictly Come Dancing. My name's Lou and this is the gorgeous
Jo.
Beautiful Jo. And we're going to be talking to you, as I said, about everything Strictly Come Dancing, and we're going to be showing you a few dance moves, as well as maybe a few more surprises as the weeks come on. Who knows what's going to happen? So let's introduce ourselves. We are Savoy Entertainment. As I said, I'm Lou and this is Jo. And we are dance teachers, and we also organise dance events around the area of Lewes and Sussex. So without further ado, shall we have a little chat about what happened in this week's Strictly Come Dancing?
Let's.
It was week 3.
It was week 3.
Let's refer to our notes. Shall we?
I have my notes.
I
I
have
have a very impressive Strictly book for my notes. Lots of sparkle.
Yeah. What does my book say?
I'm very busy procrastinating.
I'm very busy procrastinating. That's
That
the thing I do
describes
best. That's the thing I do best. Okay, who are we going to start with?
Let's start with Max.
Max.
Max danced a couple's choice to the Simpsons theme tune.
That should never have been in Strictly, in my opinion.
So,
The Simpsons.
Simpsons theme tune. There's no lyrics. There's nothing to work off. It's completely instrumental.
So what was the actual dance?
I
Couple's choice
couldn't
dance?
actually tell you what it was.
Because it was street, but
Yeah.
you would never necessarily have known.
So I think considering the music they were given and the style of dance they were given, they did produce something that was good,
but
and it was in character.
yeah.
So he did portray Homer Simpson well.
Good
but
cop,
it wasn't for me.
good cop, bad cop.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't for me. Those were good qualities though.
He did what he did. He did well with the dance that he was given.
Yeah.
But The Simpsons has no place on Strictly Come Dancing. And I'm not a fan of Couple's Choice.
Sometimes they can be good.
No.
But
Next. No good for us. Not good for us this week.
no.
Next. Who's on next?
So
Yeah.
so that was a sample of what we used to do.
It was very successful.
Yeah.
The two girls, incidentally, I'm trying to remember the name of their dance studio, but they do a blog, and they continue on with their sort of video stuff. Worthwhile taking a look at. They are very, very funny together, and actually they tried to teach me to dance over the period of that program. And we've got the video somewhere. That's a bit hilarious as well. But Jo and Lou, great fun. And what they would do is they would watch an episode of Strictly, and then they would give their own view on the dance and how they would have marked it as professional dancers. The dance studio, by the way, is in Ringman, and very active. And you can actually see them on
Is it
social
still
media.
going on today?
Sorry, yes, indeed. I mean, we don't do the program anymore,
Oh.
but they actually do something similar, I think, on social media.
So that was sort of some of the stuff that you did before lockdown.
That's stuff coming up for lockdown. That's right. Yeah. So that was a sample of it. We actually did quite a lot of interesting things, and we do from time to time actually show some of it. And I suppose really one of the patterns that we find ourselves falling into is that if the headlines are all the same for the newspapers, which they are, it leaves a little bit of a gap because you're not getting a divergent view of what's going on the news headlines. So it takes us away, perhaps, from doing a proper, well, not doing a proper analysis, but keeping on, because we were talking about the same thing all the time. But Joe Biden, incidentally, one of the interesting things to come out of New York with our lovely associate, Suzanne Mouchot, is that she says that when the United Nations General Assembly meets in New York, and it lasts for 2 weeks, is getting anywhere at all in New York is impossible, absolutely impossible. The traffic situation is awful. And she said she actually got into a taxi the other day and told him where she wanted to go. And he said, no, won't take you because the traffic is so awful. So we tend not to think in terms of other places suffering from traffic chaos. But New York most certainly does, and particularly at the time that the United Nations General Assembly is meeting. Now, 9 times out of 10, the United Nations General Assembly would meet and carry on without us even recognizing it on our radar. We would never, ever recognize it. And what happens is that it actually causes complete and utter havoc and disrupts New York life for 2 weeks every year. But the important thing is that much of what the United Nations talks about slips under the radar. We're not that interested in it. This time, because they're talking about averting nuclear war, it's getting the attention of everybody. Not you, Max, because you don't think the nuclear war is going to take place.
No, I highly doubt that nuclear war is going to take place.
Now, let's turn to some sort of local things, because you are our transport correspondent, if you like, because you come in on the bus. How was the bus this morning?
Yeah, both were on time. Got me here on time. There was little traffic. It was quite nice. Yeah. I've been on the bus 2 hours this morning already, and another 2 hours home. And if I want to go to Worthing to go see a friend, I have to, after work, sometimes I meet a friend in Worthing, and that's an extra 2 hours onto my bus journey. And then I have overall in a day 6 hours on the bus.
Wow.
So I'm excited to get my motorbike sorted.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You were going to bring in you were going to put a photo of your motorbike up. You didn't get the chance. Can you do that?
Not right this second.
No, right. Well, what we'll look forward to is that we haven't got much of this week left. We've only got tomorrow left. At the beginning of next week, Max will actually feature on this early morning program his motorbike, and he can take us through how he got it, what he plans to do with it, what needs doing to it. In fact, it can be very educational. Is that okay with you, Max?
I can do that. Yeah.
Good man. Because actually he was very, very excited, and he says he still is, except it's like every project that you ever undertake. There are things which you're not expecting, and quite often those things cause a setback.
Yeah,
it's a disappointment.
It's going to be quite costly.
It
really is. Right. It's going to cost a lot of money.
Oh dear.
Yeah. It's coming up quick.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit nervous.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, let's hope that everything pans out for you, and you've got no problems. All right. Now, where do we go from here? Let's see what else we've got here to peak above the
We could play The Bloody History of a Tiny Town.
Well, why not? Episode 2 is we've shown this last week. Let's show it again this week, shall we?
We showed episode 1 last week. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So
yes.
We'll show this.
This is episode 2.
This is a very good one.
Lovely scene, isn't it? Beautiful green grass, blackberry bushes surrounding the lawn. Peaceful. The chaps, gliding a bowling ball across the cropped turf. Couldn't be more pleasant. But this bowling green was originally the tilting ground for the castle. A bit like the local football club, Norman knights turned up regularly to practice cutting off ears, piercing armour with pike or sword. Or even more dramatically, they charged at one another with pointed lances, determined to knock an opponent to the ground, ready to perform the coup de grace, that last fatal plunge of the sword in the unguarded bit of flesh, the throat. Ugh, makes me feel quite faint. But the Knights of 1100 had to be honed to military perfection. Not only was there the odd disgruntled Saxon around, but even his own side could give the king a rough time. And indeed they did. But before we go to another bloody incident on the Lewes High Street, let's stay with the tilting ground for a moment. In the 1700s, the soldiers, who had wielded their swords with such skill, discovered guns and started shooting one another. That more or less ended the fun of charging at one another with horses. And so this bit of real estate was up for grabs, and the local crown bowlers seized the opportunity in 1751 and turned tilting into bowling. But this is Lewes, remember. Nothing is ever what it seems. The horses had ploughed up the ground a bit, so the surface wasn't even. You can see the bumps and ridges across the green. So the type of bowls played on this green was different to any played through the British Isles. And 500 years later, it still is.
It goes way back to medieval times, but so far as we're concerned here, we've been playing here since 1753, and there is some evidence to suggest that in the mid-1600s there was bowls played here, and we're reputed to be the oldest society, sporting society in the world. Very unique. I mean, unique in many respects. I mean, firstly, the woods are unique in that they're most of them over 100 years old. They're lignum vitae, which is very, very hard wood, and that's the reason, of course, they've survived as long as they have. The jack is biased, which is very unusual, and the green is undulating, very undulating. There's not another green anywhere in this country so far as we know, and it makes for a very fascinating but unique game, one that we can't play any other club because there aren't any that play like this. We have a membership of 50 only because, or 55 now, because that's all the woods we have. They're handed down from person to person. We have a championship game in the summer because we have a competition throughout the year, which is within the club. And I think the winner of that is not only our own champion, but we can consider he's world champion. As long as we can retain the green, and I think we can retain the green, as long as we can do that, there's no reason why this society shouldn't continue ad infinitum almost. It's a great Lewes establishment.
So bowling in Lewes is completely unique. And very difficult. But back to blood and guts. In the last episode,
I spoke of a battle between the king and some of his barons. The king, Henry III, held the castle. Now, as you can see, the castle pokes up into the sky quite a bit. The Motter is a man-made hill. And as you can see, a few hours of overtime were put in to build this pile of dirt. From the top, you can see in every direction for miles. Almost impossible to creep up without being noticed. And there was a moat to cross as well. But it's called Castle Ditch Lane, the name reflecting its purpose all those years ago. The king, rather unsportingly, had more men on his side than the barons. But it seems he fell asleep at the switch, and on that meadow over there, Simon de Montfort drew up his troops and joined battle. Fighting was fierce. After all, they'd all been on their own tilting greens, preparing for such a showdown as this. The battle was short and sharp, and the barons put the royal troops to flight. And they showed no mercy. The priory had been used as a staging post by the king's men, and they now took refuge there. It's little wonder the tilting grounds became bowling greens, because despite all that training, the king's men panicked. Screams of terror from both monks and soldiers echoed around the priory. As burning arrows thudded into thatched roofs, setting the priory buildings afire, fighting spilled over to here, our beloved but bloody High Street. Soldiers were either massacred or crushed to death as they tried to get across the bridge over the River Ouse. For the king, it was a complete disaster.
Montfort, he split his armies up on the hills behind us in the chalk downs. And he split his army into three forward not flanks, but bunches of men, groups. And they would have been around 1,500 people in them. So a lot of people. So he had 1,500 people. Then he kept men back for himself. So his left flank went off to Barkham and met Prince Edward, and they went off to Barkham. Prince Edward, being a hothead and chasing them all the way up to Barkham, away from town, was one of the reasons the king's men lost. Because and they were mounted knights. And then the other two sets came into the town and were met by the king's army and Richard of Alameyn's army on sort of the hills around us, really, because where we are now would have been outside the town.
And it was a pretty bloody war.
It was dreadful. It was absolutely dreadful. It's hard to imagine. Lewes is a little place, and on the hills around Lewes, where most of the fighting was, there were tens of thousands of people trying to kill each other. And it was hand-to-hand close combat. And you didn't often die of wounds on the battlefield immediately. You were usually whacked with a broadsword and you would die of internal bleeding, or you would, have limbs severed and die slow death, or you would die death from infection, etc.
So there you go. Not quite one man, one vote, but some slight recognition that the divine right of kings isn't exactly what the Almighty had in mind. A spark of democracy was ignited, and it happened in Lewes. As usual, this is thirsty work, and I need to take a break. In fact, have a tipple, or perhaps go to the loos.
Don't leave me. There's more blood and gore to come. Oh, Lewis, what a place.
Mouth moving, no sound coming out. I always forget to turn on that bloody mic. That was episode 2 of our documentary, and it was part 1 of that. The documentary is very interesting, and people ask for it to be replayed. I may say to you that this documentary, when it was originally broadcast by the Together channel, is 1 January, just before lockdown, reached 2.5 million people. So it's a program that everybody really quite enjoyed. And to show it again, I think is, well, we will continue to show bits of it again throughout the next months. Now, we are preparing for Liza Page, and I see the old man. Good morning, old man. Are you all right?
I don't speak to people older than myself. Go away. Go away, shoot.
Stuart Dolby, who's in here this morning. Oh, by the way, Stuart, Financial Times article from the head of the fracking association saying it'll never work in Britain. And I just said to people that you heard it first on Mirador. That you said that. I know, that's what I'm saying. You told everybody.
Well, that's what they're saying in the Financial Times. It's about the geology is not right. Well, that is bullshit. That's just an excuse.
Right.
The real thing is title. I told you. See, when the Queen owns the underneath, that means that all the local councillors own the underneath.
Right.
And when Quadrilla comes in,
some of them won't cough up for environmental purposes. Right. Okay.
So it's basically about title. In America, person owns the top, owns the underneath. Here, the Queen owns the underneath, which means that it goes through government to local government.
Right.
And the Quadrilla one in 2019 was aborted because it wasn't a earthquake, as the FT said, it was a tremor. Okay, and people think their houses are going to disappear. Okay, and that's what's going to happen. And the amount of opposition to this won't allow it to happen. And if you notice what Truss said, if the local communities allow, they don't allow in the north of England, for example, they don't want great lorries running through gear and stuff through the little villages.
Yeah, right.
And that's why it stopped.
Right. Anyway,
you heard it first.
You heard it first on Mirador.
Right.
All right. Go to the pub now.
No, I'm not going to the pub.
Oh, he's not going to the pub. How disappointing.
I'll go out to get some sort of chemist. I might return. I may be gone for some time.
Well, you might want to return because you're leaving your bag here.
Okay.
Good morning and welcome back to Mirador Television. I'm here this morning with Liza Page for the 4th episode. It's officially been a month.
Well, where did this month go?
I don't know. The
Max?
time
Where
has
did
really
it
flown
go?
by.
Wee, it zooms by. I used to think it was me, but I speak to a lot of very young people, and they say that time is going by very, very quickly.
It really is. It really has been a month already of our
Nobody
show here.
seems to be able to explain this either. Very interesting, isn't it? Anyway, whatever. We've survived a month, haven't we? We're still here.
We're still here. We
We're
haven't been
still
banned.
breathing. We're still eating. We haven't been banned, and we're having some fun.
We're doing better than I thought with the banning aspect.
Well, you see, we're not as naughty as we thought we were.
Wow. Yeah. So, first of all, last time we spoke on here, it was the Queen just died.
Yes, yes.
Very sad. She was a good monarch. All the rest to come will never be as good as her.
Do you think there'll be a lot more?
Do I think there'll be a lot more? Yes, I do think so. There will be. I do.
Well, that's encouraging. It's coming from a young person like yourself. That's an interesting.
I think they'll be coming. They'll be there for a while, but do I want them to be there? That's a different question. I don't.
You don't want.
No, not really.
No. Who would you like there in their place?
Well, that's the problem. I don't like them, but we don't have a better system. The presidency isn't really a better system.
No.
The monarchy, full monarchy, obviously, is the worst possible system. Presidency is not good. Constitutional monarchy is the best of the worst, in my opinion. What do you think could replace it if there were to be a replacement?
If they're replaced, first, if they were gotten rid of, so to speak, I don't know where they would go. It might wind up like Shah of Persia years ago, who, was very, very big, and then the crowd turned against him, and he was running all over the world looking for a place to die.
They would probably run off to Argentina.
Well,
that's where other people have run off to.
Certainly. Well, anyway, they got a nice few quid. It's nice work if you can get it. And but I did watch it, and the parade, which we do better than anybody else in the entire world. Yes. I mean, and the spirit of the people, you could feel the energy and the love. If only they turned that love into something different, rather than a box in a case, in a car that we have no idea what's in there. They've got their word for it. But regardless, I mean, the parade was magnificent. It was worth watching just for that. Those Coldstream Guards are perfectly in tune, The poor souls walking around with those great big busbies on. Oh dear. In that heat in the summer, oh, incredible. Anyway, I thought one shouldn't really laugh. One should be somber at funerals, no matter who they are, I suppose. But, I don't think that would apply to Hitler, would it? Anyway, I thought it was hilarious. I could not stop laughing when these world dignitaries came in to meet our king. And the elation, it reminded me just of The Godfather. That film years ago, which I don't know if you saw with Marlon Brando,
no.
But it's a classic and you have to see it. I mean, with the Don, the Godfather gangster, has died. So all the other gangsters come to pay homage, and they're all, naturally saying we got to kill the son too, to get ourselves up there. But when all these things came in to Charles's living room, I burst out laughing. I mean, especially when Trudeau came in and he's looking round the place thinking, yes, this would do me. Yes, oh, this would be very nice. Yes. You know,
Yeah.
comes the takeover, comes the reset. I'll be in here.
Okay.
And it went on, and all these terrible, evil people coming into his life. I don't think he stands a chance.
No. Well,
I don't know, I tell you, because he's got himself backed up with these terrible reset people.
yeah, he's said he's given up all causes.
Oh, come on.
I know.
He can't even keep a promise to his wife. How's he going to keep a promise to the country?
That is a very good way of putting it, Liza.
Yeah.
Can't even keep a promise to his wife.
Well, he can't. You were too young for the Diana thing. But
Yeah, Diana died like 5-6 years before I was born.
Yeah, and the crowds that you saw were equivalent to the crowds that she got at her funeral.
Yeah.
Really. It was that intense. And the Queen very, very nearly lost her place. They were so angry at the Queen for having stayed away and probably treated her the way she treated her, which was in total indifference. I mean, this was a young, beautiful, vital woman. I probably hadn't laid a finger on her for 3 years. And it was wicked, terrible, dreadful thing. I said, oh, she's mental, then this, that, and the other. It's enough to turn anyone mental, isn't it? Situation like that. Diana is gone, and I rather like Diana. I didn't know her, for God's sake, but I liked her because she had to go back at him. And she was all on her own. You know, it's a big thing for her to take on. So, anyway, but regarding Charles and this poisonous lot that he's associating with, and don't tell me, well, he has to. No, he doesn't. He is the King of England, and he does not have to associate with
Of
these
course he doesn't
people.
have to associate.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he doesn't have to associate with the World Economic Forum, but associating with the world leaders like Justin Trudeau, obviously that's part of the Commonwealth. He does have to associate with them, obviously.
No, he should say, I don't like your politics, so fucking piss off.
Yeah, but he does like Justin Trudeau's politics. That's the
Well,
problem.
this is a dangerous thing. This makes him very dangerous then, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the thing with the Queen is we didn't know her politics. We could have a good guess.
No, she
but
was
we
dictated to by the Illuminati, and she was probably petrified all her life.
I'm not sure about that, but we know for sure. What I'm saying is we know for sure where Prince Charles, or King Charles now, lies on politics. We know who he's affiliated with.
Yeah.
We know what he's doing,
Uh-huh.
which in a way is actually good, because we didn't know anything about the Queen, really. We didn't know what she was like. We didn't know her politics. We didn't know much about her. But Charles, on the other hand, everyone can see. It's blatant. He is friends with these awful people. He chose to go to Davos. He chose to go to the World Economic Forum. He chose to do those things. We know he's a bad guy. So in a way, it's actually good.
Well, then...
because it's eye-opening
Then
for
I tell you
people.
something. I think the people should vote him out. Then
You can't vote the monarch out. Don't be
Come on!
silly.
Did you see those crowds of people?
Did you?
There, they
Don't
can
you
do
see there is
whatever
no
they
way
want.
you cannot vote out the monarch.
No, but
You can
say
have
we'd
very
like him to
strong.
leave.
You can have very strong public disapproval, but there will never be any sort of vote ever.
Never say never, darling. Never say never.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
When I saw those crowds and crowds of people lining the streets there just to see the coffin and the parade, I thought, if that crowd should turn angry, what chance would we have? Would he have? None whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's been known to happen. And I honestly don't think he's going to find it that easy to bring in this one world order right with him and his little friends, because people's eyes are opening and they're saying, no, this is not right.
Yeah.
No. Because these people are psychotic. And they certainly don't have my interest or your interest or anybody else's interest at heart.
I think one of the worst politicians at the moment would be Justin Trudeau.
Well, he should have gone long ago.
He should have. I can't believe he got re-elected. He was. What happened to him was he got re-elected the same way Trump got his first election. He didn't get the popular vote, but he did get the first past the post. So he got more electorate votes than popular votes, which is the same way Trump got elected.
There's so much skullduggery going on. I don't believe in these elections.
No, I know you don't. No, I still have some faith.
All I know is I know absolutely nothing. Really.
No, you know a lot.
Absolutely
You know a lot. You do.
But that Godfather scene with them all striding in like that, so it was hilarious. You've got to see that film with Marlon Brando. It's classic. Actually, I think that should be shown in universities. I really do.
With Justin Trudeau, who do you think is worse, Justin Trudeau or Joe Biden?
Well, Joe Biden, because he's got more people.
He can control more.
Well, control more,
But
yeah.
if Canada had the same power as America, it would hands down beat Trudeau. Very lucky.
You see, well, one.
Very lucky
they
he's
are
Canadian.
both very, very sinister psychopaths. That's what these people are.
As pretty much all politicians are.
Well,
there's very few that aren't.
Exactly, they're totally brainwashed, and you don't get in with those people unless.
How many times have you voted in your life?
Once, I think.
Just
once. Think. I listen. I didn't swear, but I think I did vote for Margaret Thatcher. I liked certain things that she did. Millions of people to please. Can't please everyone. She did pick Britain up and swing it. And she was never in favour of this common market. They wanted to take over our pound, and she said, virtually over my dead body. Why should I exchange a strong pound for a weak euro?
Exactly.
Just to prop up your lot. And taking years to get out of there, she would have got us out very, very quickly, I promise you.
Imagine how different life would be if we hadn't gotten out of the EU. Because whilst we had this guy doing all our decisions, in places like France, Spain, Italy, they were all dictated to by the European Union. If we had still been in the European Union, we would have all the same vaccine passports, all the same mandatory vaccinations. We would have everything.
Absolutely.
Thank God.
God, we got out.
Just in time.
Absolutely, because this European Union started off being called the Common Market, which was a much better title. It's like it's for all, was started by the Nazis at the end of the war.
Was it?
Absolutely, yes.
I didn't.
Now, come on,
I
you
didn't know
did.
that.
Oh, yes, you did.
No,
Come on,
I
research
didn't
is
know
your strong point.
I know, but I have to have a look
Every
into
single one of these top jollies. And the Americans came in and they took the best scientists out of Britain and America before the Russians could cop on them. Right, we'll have you, take you back to the States where they should have gone to prison for the rest of their lives. Took them back to the States, treated them like kings, put them to work, and said, come on, we want everything that you know. It was called Operation Paperclip.
It was, yes.
Yes.
I know about Operation Paperclip.
Yes, and that was all to do with the European Union, which came on tippy toes. First, Germany, you will never have another military. You won't have this. Yes, all right, okay. And underneath all these monkeys down there in Argentina, and it's like they never had a war. Brought money, strong money down there. They had it was open country to them, did what they like, and continued with these horrific experiments.
Have you seen these Argentinian German towns? The German towns in Argentina?
No, I haven't.
Fascinating. I'm going to send you 2 links to watch. They're by a guy called Tim Kennedy, who's a very fascinating guy. He did a show called Hunting Hitler.
Yeah.
He went to Argentina and he went to these towns that was all old German architecture, pre-war, from where all the Nazis fled to Argentina. They set up their camps in Argentina.
Yes.
and built communities. Everyone speaks German in like the mountains of Argentina.
Yes.
It's very strange.
Yeah, the Germans, they seem to thrive in the mountains. Please do. Please send me that link. I find that very interesting.
Fascinating show.
Yeah. So, back to the European Union, wicked, evil organization. We never, ever should have gone in there, ever.
I'm just glad we got out
with
in
this
time.
force that I saw at the funeral, these thousands of people there, I thought if we could just organize them to say Britain is fantastic, get rid of the crap, and let's start again and build up this country the way Trump says, America first. Let's say Britain first.
Yeah, I don't understand why anyone isn't their country first. I don't understand it.
No,
because I see people like, oh no, America first and Britain first. That's racist. I'm like, in what world? We should be caring about other people. We should be caring about other countries like Afghanistan. I'm like, I don't care about. I'm sorry, but I just don't care about these other countries. They have their own problems. Tough luck. But we should be focusing on this country.
Yeah. And I mean, the way that women are treated abysmally in these Arab countries, I mean, unthinkably. But why don't they all get together and say, no, we're not having this? I mean, God helped those that help themselves. But God helps those who help themselves.
They're brainwashed.
Yes. Are we going to go in and de-brainwash them or something?
The Bible says this is the way life should be, so it should be this way. And they don't question it. Because the Jihad Bible, I can't remember what it's called, the Quran, says that this is the right way of life. This is how it's done. And they don't question it. Because the Quran says so.
Well, then, if we were going to try and help these people, we've got a bit of a tough job on our hands, haven't we? But I think we should be helping ourselves. I mean, look at this atrociousness that is going on now with our children and these sex change businesses. And they've closed down this Tavistock place, thank God. But why was it allowed to open? Have they really closed it down too?
There we go.
Yeah.
Interesting question. I know a little bit about this Tavistock clinic.
Tell me, educate me.
Whilst I saw it go, Tavistock clinic is where children go to get puberty blockers, and transition, get mastectomies as children, to be clear. The Tavistock clinic, when I saw it shut down, I go, yes, it's been shut down. That's great. Oh, hang on a minute. This is terrible news. Because what's happening now is there isn't a clinic to go to. Hospitals are now doing this. So you can go to a hospital like Brighton Hospital, the most progressive place in the world, I would say. Go to Brighton Hospital and you can do it there. And you can go to Birmingham, you can do it there. You can go to London, you can do it there. You can go to Manchester, you can do it there. So it's not one place. It's now lots of little bits scattered across the country.
My mind cannot take it. It's too horrific for me to comprehend. It really is. I mean, when they came over from these countries and started mutilating little girls in the name of religion, called it the cutting season. They don't allow it here, so they go back to wherever they come from, and they cut the girl's genitals and sew them up so that she cannot have pleasure in sex, and the hole is so small, and the man has to tear her apart to get in there, and it's just too. And unless she's fixed, he won't marry her. He won't have anything to do with her. That says another man has never been there. And all this other stuff, and a 6-year-old child is taken away and mutilated, often without anesthetic or any painkillers whatsoever.
And
I can't even describe this shit, but you know what? And they said, this is illegal and we have to stop this.
This is
the
Middle East.
They cracked down a little bit. But then they said, we'll go out of the country and do it. So you said, well, you're going to do that to your child. You're not going to come back here.
I have an interesting fact for you. Do you know what country has the largest amount of transgender people?
Tell me.
Have a guess. Where do you think the largest amount of transgender people are in the world?
No idea.
You don't know? If you were to get Britain, it's not Britain, no. It's not America. It's not France. It's Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I know. The largest, I'm serious, the largest population of trans people in the world is Afghanistan. Do you know why? Because anyone who's in Afghanistan who is gay, they have two options when the Taliban, the new government, come to them. They say, we either throw you off a rooftop and you die, or you're clearly a woman. And obviously it's, are you going to be dead or a woman? You go, well,
Yeah.
okay, I'll do the sex change surgery. So they force gay people to get sex changes and lesbians to get women who are gay and men who are gay to get sex changes. If they refuse, they throw them off buildings.
Are you sure about that?
I am sure about that, yes.
Good God.
Because it's, oh, you're clearly a man trapped in a woman's body, or you're a woman trapped in a man's body. We must change this. Oh, you don't want it to be changed? Okay, we throw you off the building.
And this was before the invasion.
Oh, this was before.
Yeah.
This was
And
before
we're
the Taliban
going in
government.
there to help these people, risking our lives, sending our troops in to help them. Oh dear. Someone come and get me.
I'm completely serious.
Oh.
The largest population of trans people anywhere in the world is Afghanistan.
Good grief. Oh.
It's insane.
Look, I rest my case. I mean, I have nothing to say.
I believe there's only 2 countries in the Middle East, in that region, where being gay isn't a death penalty, and that is 3 countries. Oh no, 2. The UAE and Israel.
Yes,
are
I know.
the only 2 places in that region of the world where they don't throw gay people off buildings.
I thought they stoned them to death in some countries.
Oh yeah, well, death penalty.
Yeah.
In general, but the most common way is throwing them off roofs.
That's pretty permanent, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Mm.
Stoning
dear.
to death is usually reserved for women who get raped.
You enticed that man. Yes, it's your fault. Yes.
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 You showed your ankles or something.
Something. Yes. And you got him too excited. Yeah.
Yes. You showed your ankles.
Oh, come on. It's so horrific. It's funny.
It's. Yeah, I agree. It is.
Well, what are we going to do?
Nothing, to be honest. I don't want to do anything. I just you know what? Those countries, they're terrible places to live. They're terrible.
Yeah, but if
They're barbaric.
we're doing this, if the British people are doing this to their children in these hospitals, we're just as bad. Even worse.
In the Middle East, it's forced. Here, it's optional, but obviously, children are being brainwashed into it.
Same thing in my book. It's the same thing.
It is.
Yeah. This
Similar,
is a slow death.
yeah.
The other one's a quicker death.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Oh boy.
But
How are you? How's your diet coming along? How's your arm?
My arm's good. The doctors are useless. I'm self-medicating myself now because of it, because they're like, oh, we can sort you out in 10 days' time. It's like, no, whatever. But my arm is...
Is it still painful?
Yeah, it aches.
Yeah.
It's not the worst pain. It's not the worst break I've had.
No.
It's just
It's inconvenient.
It's inconvenient.
Yeah.
It
Anyway, you've got to be more careful, darling, if you're going to lift these weights, because they're not toys,
Yeah, I was recommended. I was told, be careful. Don't just go straight onto the heavier stuff. But I wanted to get the most amount of, how do I say it? I wanted to see the most change in the shortest amount of time. So I went straight to the heaviest stuff and pushed myself too hard, and then got a stress fracture because of it.
Well,
so that was my own fault.
It's a good lesson.
It was.
It's a good lesson.
I certainly won't do the same thing again.
Yeah, it could have been a much worse lesson too.
It could have, yeah.
Yeah. So, Anyway, you'll be fine in a few weeks, and you can get back there, can't you?
5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, which will go like that.
Yeah.
Go very, very quickly.
But I've got my motorbike now. I think I showed you that. It's getting delivered tomorrow, I believe. And then I have a family friend who's a mechanic, and me and him are going to spend a day fixing it together.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cost a bit overall to get it on the road. To get it insured, on the road, fixed, overall, it's going to be about £500 to £600.
Oh, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but I got the motorbike for free, so I'm not too bothered.
Are you excited?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sick of 4-hour bus journeys for work.
Oh, it's too much now.
It is. When I go to Worthing to see my girlfriend, then it's an extra 2 hours on my journey. So sometimes I have a 6-hour bus journey in a day.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a little bit much.
Yeah. I'm just so worried about you on the roads, though.
Yes, I will get rid of that motorbike as soon as I can, because you're not the only one who's worried. I am too.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'll be very safe. Don't you worry. Well.
Yes, you will, because you're a beautiful human being, and you have a strong protective aura around you.
Yeah.
Hey, how was your day out with your little sister? You took her into Brighton, you said.
Yeah, I took my youngest
sister.
Did
she get her milkshake?
She
did. You promised her?
She did. Bought her everything. Spent a lot of money that day, way more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, well,
nice.
You talk about having a lot of children. Remember
I do,
how
yes.
expensive that's going to be.
That's one day out. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to have quite a few kids. I want to have at least 3.
Yes.
If I can have more, if I have a decent enough job where I have a good salary and can provide well, then I'll have more than 3 kids, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have any kids, so did you? You don't.
No. I didn't. The circumstance. I was never married. You see. And
was it
I
a
do
thing?
believe
Did you have to be married?
No.
Not have to, but it was it like a? You were not married when you did that. That's.
It wasn't disapproval or anything like that. I just happened to come from a family who were very loving and very kind, and I felt very secure within my family. And my mother and father were naturally married. And you see, children learn from example. And I wanted if I brought a child into this world, and I don't think you did them any favors at all, but if I did, I wanted them to have the benefit of a mummy and daddy that were married, and that daddy would come home every night, if it was possible, which makes children feel very secure when they see the same faces every day in the same surroundings. This helps them to go out in the world with a strong feeling, knowing that they have that love behind them.
You said.
Well, you see, I was never married because the men who. Couple of men that I fell in love with, they couldn't marry me. You see, one was married, and you cannot find happiness at the expense of somebody else's unhappiness.
Yeah.
So the opportunity for having children my way, wasn't there. And the man that I was with for 9 years, we planned to get married. It was always, yes, jam tomorrow as far as he was concerned. And then it got to the stage where I knew he wasn't going to marry me, and there was no excuse for him, not to. He promised, and we planned, and we'd worked towards that, a family and a home together, because we were on the road constantly. So even though it was 9 years.
You were both in show business.
Yes. And so, we virtually when you live and work with someone, it was 18 years rather than 9 years, Yeah, it was a long time. And then it ran its course. So I thought, no, I need protection of marriage now. I said, if you walk out the door, No one's even, and don't come back or get run over. No one's even going to bother to come and inform me. And I've gone on long enough like this, so I'm afraid we have to separate. It was a strong decision for me, but it had to be made. And since then, you see, I was quite old when I left. I think I was 37, something like that. I don't know.
When you left what?
When I left Lou, when I split up with
sorry,
him.
yes.
So also he was a tough act to follow, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yes. So I had
I
great
watched
difficulty.
some of the stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting. He was a comedian.
Yeah.
And a lot of his shows were 18 plus.
Yes.
And I watched them and I went, "This is probably a 12 now. This is a 12 plus."
Yes,
And the things that are this show's only for adults, I watch it and go, "This is nothing."
It's like a kiddie show.
It's like a kid's show now.
Yeah. Depressing.
They said maybe
Depressing.
he said in his acts maybe one or two bad words,
Oh.
but overall I'm like, this is not.
Well, you know,
This is different from what it is now.
being a vendor, you know, we worked a lot of American bases, and you've got a bunch of troops sitting there with big boots and you know, twigs in their helmets on occasions. You're not going to give them Mary Had a Little Lamb, are you?
No,
You
you're
know,
not.
and these
No.
are guys in the main, you know. So it was for its day. It was as far as he could go. Yeah, but nowadays it wouldn't mean a thing, as you said. Lou passed away, I was a couple of years ago now, and not a day goes by that I don't miss him.
Really?
Yes, oh yes.
When was the last time you saw him?
Oh dear, I think it must have been 10 years ago. 10 years, 10, 11, maybe even 12, yes. He came here to see me, and never go back. Not a good idea.
No?
Too emotional, stirs up too much, and for what? No. I was told this by older people who are supposed to know.
Yeah.
Don't do it, Lisa. Don't do it. Don't see him.
And you didn't listen? You went and saw him?
No, I never listen to anybody. Got trouble listening to myself. No, yeah,
Well,
it was good, but it cost me too much emotionally.
so
It would have been
never
better.
got married then? You never got married? You were engaged?
I don't know what I was. Yes, I always said I was engaged, and this is
Yeah.
my fiance. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have a fiance in this day and age? Is
Yes,
there such a
my
thing still?
that's still the same. Nothing's
Oh.
changed with that.
Yeah.
My sister has a fiance. They're gonna get married at some point. I don't know when.
I think that's nice. I really
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
They're doing the same as what I planned. They're gonna get married and then have kids.
I think that is much the best way. I mean, the way they do it today, I think is awful because, you know, marriage is to do with children. That's what it is. That otherwise, you know, if you're not going to have children, oh, you come and go as you please.
Well,
You know,
I
but when
can't-
children are involved, these split ups, it affects them terribly. It's a dreadful thing to do to a child.
Yes, it is. I can't remember the exact statistics. I'll have a look later. But something like 40-something% of UK households are single-parent households now.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I don't know how
I'm
they
in a
do.
single-parent household.
I know you are, and I don't know how your poor mother does it. I mean,
Well,
she works all those hours,
I've
darling.
got 2 jobs as well, yeah.
I mean, the responsibility, it must be like carrying a big army.
Well, my mum has to deal with 3 teenage boys, 18, 17, and 16.
She must be a very strong lady, your
Yeah,
mum.
she is single-parent household. We got 3 dogs and a cat as well.
You got chihuahuas, haven't
We've got
you?
3 chihuahuas.
I love it. Yeah.
One of them's a Chihuahua cross pug, and she is adorable. Her name is Shelby.
I've seen her picture.
They're all so cute.
Uh-huh.
They are. I've had 5 dogs now over the last 10 years.
Yes.
Got 3 of them still.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those Chihuahuas, they're personality personified.
Yeah.
Out there.
And they're the happiest dogs as well. They're so
But they're
happy.
it's such good watchdogs too.
Yeah.
I mean, they hear things, and also, you know, they're particular with what they eat, because big dogs, people tend to poison them, you know. Whereas little ones, they're very fussy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chihuahuas are the longest living dog breed.
Are they really? Yes, I had one.
You had one. How?
Yes, my little Jody dog. Oh God, I've still got her urn at home. You know,
How long did she live for?
She stayed with me till she was 19.
19.
19, yes.
Wow.
She was half pug and half Chihuahua, and I think it was the pug in her, you know, that kept it going. And it was my mother's dog. When I came back from America, I think she was a couple of years old then. And then when my mum died, naturally, you know, I inherited her. But I'm so bad. I tell you something, I so badly need the unconditional love of one of these little dogs. I badly need that. But it wouldn't be fair to me, and it certainly wouldn't be fair to the animal, because at my age, it's going to outlive me. And also the running around that I do, you know, especially as I've come back to work, you know, you and I are going to be tremendously busy. And I would worry too much, because I'm conceited enough to think that I am the only one that is capable of taking care of a little thing like that. But anybody, when I was with my mother, I mean, you know, anybody that came in and said, "Can I take the dog out?" I don't know. My mother said, "You're so jealous, aren't you?"
Well, I love my little dogs. They're adorable. They're the sweetest. And with Chihuahuas, you don't need to walk them as far as big dogs.
No, because they got those little.
Yeah, they got little tiny legs, and a walk around the field a couple of times is enough.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
well,
yeah.
no, you have your dogs and you enjoy them. They're a lovely asset.
Yeah. Well, one thing we've noticed is the 2 new dogs we have. We got them as not a rescue but emergency homing at the same time, emergency rehoming, and they were lockdown dogs. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
Lockdown dogs. So there was a huge spike in people buying dogs during lockdown because they wanted especially people who lived alone.
Yes.
They wanted a companion. But what happened is these dogs were lockdown dogs. The 2 I've got now, they are used to having a human around them 100% of the time because it was lockdown. You couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So now when you leave the house, the dogs have terrible anxiety.
And also they think they're human beings. Unless they see other dogs.
They don't see other dogs. Well, they didn't. No, they do now. But
yeah, but with these lockdowns, I mean,
they've got incredible.
This is going to go down in history as, you know. And listen,
one of the
these
worst
people,
decisions we ever made.
But in these politicians, you know, that have it wasn't euthanasia, it's murder. What they've done to elderly people. I mean, they're not so elderly with this Mirazodam, what they call it.
Well, the worst one.
They are going to go to prison for the rest of their lives. Your Bill Gates and these people, they have to.
No.
They have to.
They won't. I'm sorry, but they just will not. It won't happen. They will not go to prison. It would be great if they did, but these are billionaires. These are powerful elites. They will never be imprisoned. I mean, look at Jeffrey Epstein. He was in prison for years, and he was being let out every day. He was allowed to go fly on his private jet whilst he was in prison, until the last time he got put in prison. That was the final time, and then he killed himself, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, with that kind of money, you don't die.
No. But maybe he was murdered. Who knows? He had a lot of information on the Clintons. And they have a slight track record of people they know who have dirt on them suspiciously dying. Very strange. Must be a coincidence. Must be a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, there are alternative measures, but I can't discuss it with you on here. But I almost finished the Kennedy book,
Oh, yeah?
on the real Fauci. And there's so much stuff in there on this man, and if he isn't prosecuted.
How long is the book?
It's quite a few pages. And, even if just 10% of it is true, the man should be in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah. I mean, he did terribly with the AIDS pandemic as well.
Yeah. Or his entire career has been spent misinforming people and bribing people.
And what was the interesting thing was he was on a salary of £430,000 a year, something like that. The president makes less than that.
Yeah.
The president makes 399,000, or I think it's 401,000, something like that. But Dr. Fauci was the highest paid government official in the entire country, paid more than the president.
Well, back to square one, aren't we?
Yeah, who's going to be the next guy? Who's going to be the next Fauci?
That's a good, very, very good question. I wish I had the answer, but I don't.
I don't think he'll ever go to prison. I mean, do you know how old Fauci is?
Well, he's 80, isn't he?
He's 84.
Yeah.
That's incredible. He does not act like an 84-year-old. He's certainly.
No, with these people,
I mean, you
they
look
have
at
the
Joe-
best physicians. And,
Yeah,
traveling.
but you look at Joe Biden and he's a bumbling fool.
Well, maybe he's always been that way. How do we know?
No, he hasn't. You look at videos of him under Barack Obama as vice president, completely able to string a sentence together. Very good. He said he had a speech impediment when he was young, younger than me at the time, and apparently it's come back and he can't string a sentence together. Dr. Fauci is 81 years old. He's older than Joe Biden, and he's healthy for his age.
Yeah, but most of those people, they live to a ripe old age and they travel around on these jets. I mean, for an old person, and they're in an aircraft for all those hours, no matter how fast it is, it does not do you any good at all.
Yeah.
But they
Also-
have the old vitamin B shots, the finest alternative medicine they're in.
Joe Biden is officially the oldest president now. He's 80 years old. Imagine being 80 years old and having the most stressful job in the world.
Oh.
How is he president?
Well,
And what if he?
Well, all
people-
they're doing, darling, they're not making any decisions. They're
Oh, well,
just
he's not,
taking
no.
orders. They're just taking orders
Well, he's
from
not
the
making.
much higher up.
He's not in charge, obviously. Can't string a sentence together.
When people are standing for him, I mean, these ladies that you interview on there, oh no, Biden is going to get us out of trouble. And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
I don't understand that at all. I'm sorry.
I don't think.
I mean, these women are supposed to be educated. I don't see it.
Yes. Well, I don't.
I think the bigger the education, the more gullible you are to this
You know what? That's an
propaganda.
interesting point there because my nan used to live next to people who both of them were Oxford educated. Husband and wife, both of them went to Oxford. Smartest people she knew, but also the most stupid.
Yeah.
Because they were incredibly smart, incredibly good intellects, but common tasks they just couldn't do. They were idiots.
Yeah.
They didn't have common sense.
They probably
They had
can't
what
even
they-
tie their shoelaces.
They just know what their professors told them.
Yeah. And that's passed down, and you will teach this. Why?
This is the way
because
it
we
is.
say so, otherwise you'll lose your job.
It's the way it's supposed to be.
Oh boy. Well,
Well, we'll go to a short break and then we'll talk about a subject that I think is quite interesting. We'll be talking about China. after the break.
Let's.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
What should we play? Should we play the 2 minutes and 35 seconds? Do you want to play the Jubilee?
I don't care. I don't care.
Okay, we'll play this since we were talking about the monarchy.
I do like some of the music that Keith plays on here. I really do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you'll hear it now.
For UN Army personnel.
Okay, right, so we are back.
Hello, hello.
Do you want to talk about that, what you just were mentioning about?
Yes, saw it on David Icke's channel. A lady said that the Holiday Inn near Luton Airport is closed for being filled by UN Army personnel. Military operation in St. Albans and all different districts. They're closing down hotels and putting the military in there.
That's interesting.
And climate lockdowns, which they're going to bring in.
Yeah, well, I've spoken about them quite a lot.
Yes, are already starting.
They are?
Gates, yes, yeah. Gates says he wants a world lockdown. Lockdowns harm the most vulnerable people. Climate lockdowns are coming. Gardening will be against the law.
Now that's an interesting one because we're already seeing that in places like New Zealand and Canada.
Yeah.
Canada's talking about bringing it in. But you know what? I don't know who would be worse actually. Trudeau or Jacinda Ardern.
Well, they're all
president of New
tarred with
Zealand.
exactly the same brush. They're all part of this forum.
Yeah, they are.
The world
Ardern is
leaders, these young
particularly bad.
world leaders that they have been training for the last 20 years. And, you know, so these old bastards, they don't care if they die because, the youngsters will take over what I've been, you know, planning all my life. They're psychotic, these people. They are psychotic. And Lucinda Arden, here I am. No, they all marched up, you know, to shake his hand, you know, at the funeral. Here we come, we are the future world leaders, and he's one of them.
Yeah. Well, New Zealand, I can't remember the story now, but they banned growing. They got you weren't allowed to have vegetable patches.
Oh no, this has all been planned, yeah. But they tried to bring that on in Italy, and they couldn't do it.
New
People wouldn't
Zealand-
stand for it.
New Zealand seems to be where things get started. New Zealand was one of the first, besides China, but New Zealand was one of the first countries to lock down. They were the last country to open as well. One of.
Yeah.
But New Zealand seems to be like the testing ground to see how much people will take.
I did a lot of work in New Zealand. I liked it very much indeed.
Oh,
it's a
beautiful
lovely
place.
country, nice people, very, very pleasant. I hate to see these places go. Come on.
So be very wary of what's going on in New Zealand, because what's going on in New Zealand is probably 6-7 months ahead of us.
Yeah. But I tell you that they did put a spoke in her wheel, though, those Canadian truckers,
They really did.
because they tried it in New Zealand because she didn't have any publicity over it, and she had to lift those restrictions.
Well,
they frightened the life out of her, I tell
this
you.
is going to sound very ridiculous. I may have mentioned it before. I've certainly mentioned it on Mirador before. Have you heard about the New Zealand burp tax?
You do my bag next.
That.
Oh, right.
Is that the cows that burp?
Yes.
And they have to pay money?
Yeah.
I think I've heard something like that, yeah. Well, have you got to have someone out in the field, you know, listening to them all night and day?
No. So, burp tax on sheep and cows. So how it's done is they take an average, and it's not a tax either. They take an average of how many times a cow or a sheep will burp in a day, and then you multiply that by how many sheep and cows you have. But it's not a tax, it's a fine. So every time, we'll say for a pound, for example, every time it burps, it's a pound. So a cow might burp 20 times in a day, that's 20 pounds per cow, as an example. So what it's doing is you're getting fined, and it's obviously not the cows that are getting fined, it's the farmers. The farmers...
Well, maybe in the future. I mean, that's stupid.
Well, the farmers are getting fined for having, every time the animals burp, to reduce climate change. But what it's doing is reducing the amount of cattle and sheep, and it's making it more expensive to be a farmer, so you're relying on the government, you're not relying on the small local businesses because they can't run.
Yeah. So
I explained that not very well.
No, you explained it perfectly. They're just trying to run them out of business. And the same with small shops and the whole thing, you know. Yeah, you can't. And then they're going to tax the rainwater. That doesn't belong to you. That belongs to us. But how can it be that they allow Bill Gates to own all that land?
Yes, Bill Gates is the largest landowner in America.
How can they possibly allow that?
Because he has all the money. He has all the money. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to tell you something. They are greedy people, and greedy people always get their comeuppance. And this will happen when they start arguing amongst themselves, which they're doing already. I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but I think you very possibly will see it in yours.
I don't see them getting arrested in my lifetime. I don't.
Listen, strange things happen. Arrest is,
certainly do happen,
it's
but
too good. Something comes along, and
so
no. If I don't, I'm not clinging to this hope. I don't cling to anything. But if I don't, think, there is a strong possibility that this will happen, then I wouldn't want to go on.
Okay. Well,
because I know that people's eyes are waking up, and not just your average Joe public who think, I know what's going on, but I can't be even bothered to try and do anything about it because apathy sets in. I'm talking about some very, very wealthy people that are at the back of this that know what's going on. And really, honestly, there is a strong force there. And I think it'll be because they're throwing all this stuff at us. They're like frightened rats. And so it shows that they are scared of people waking up.
So I have
It's interesting times we're living in. And for the moment, you and I are still sitting here doing this. We're
still
going to
allowed
get up.
to.
Yeah. We're going to go out. We'll go out for lunch. We'll go about our lives and be thankful for that for the moment.
For the moment, I already have personal experience of this starting to happen with the New World Order. Personal experience, direct. I briefly mentioned it last time, but I do want to go into it properly at some point. There's a lot to go over. I was investigated by the police, and they came to me, and this is a direct quote. A direct quote. They came to check my thinking.
So it doesn't surprise me at all.
So what happened was me and my friends had what's called a meme page. We had a bunch of jokes in a Google Documents file, and we had images to go with the jokes, and we were being silly. Most of them, we had about 300 individual memes. Most of them were very funny. Some of them were over the line, I will be honest. But out of about 300 that me and my friends had, a teacher found it at my school. Someone showed it to a teacher, and she took 5, got the police involved. She picked the 5 possible worst ones out of the 300. She called the police, and they came to check my thinking because the things that were on there that me and my friends had put on there, they didn't like and thought was dangerous when it wasn't. But they came to check my thinking.
How old were you?
This would have been 2018. Yeah, 2018. So I would have been, that's 4 years ago, I would have been 14.
Yeah.
And I was investigated by not just the police, but it was a specific terrorist task force.
Yeah.
They thought I was some sort of jihad turban wearing. They thought, I don't know what they thought. I don't know what they thought. I thought it's just ridiculous. I don't know. We'll go into it at some point in depth. I need to write it all down and go over in detail every aspect.
But China, I mean, this think a lot. I mean, they're well into that, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
And this was 4 years ago when they did this to you. Can you imagine what they're into now?
Speaking of China, we now have... Now, this isn't true. There have been many before. I've seen them on the road. But this article from the Telegraph says, the first Chinese car brand to be sold in Britain. I think this means as a dealership. So, Pendragon to start selling BYD's electric cars before the end of the year. So we're now going to have not only the Chinese phones, Huawei's, we're not only going to have the Chinese app, TikTok, that takes all your data, you're now going to have Chinese cars,
Yes.
which can very easily be hacked into, I'm sure. As a rate, most cars can. They can be hacked into and driven by themselves.
Are these the electronic cars? Yeah.
These are the electric cars.
But the batteries for these cars, the lithium batteries,
Yes.
they've got to dig all that up. That's going to be child labor, isn't it?
I want to...
And what are they going to do with these batteries when they're worn out?
Throw them away. Can't reuse them.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to use. Very expensive.
Yeah.
But I genuinely want to hit people when they say, "Oh, I'm good for the environment. I drive a Prius. I drive a Toyota Prius. I drive an electric car. I'm doing good for the environment." It's like you're an idiot. You know nothing about the environment. You know nothing about how that car is made.
Mm.
First of all, the lithium is mined from the DNC, Dominican Republic of the Congo, where little slave children go blind from the poisoning to make your electric cars.
Yeah.
So once you get the lithium is then shipped to China, where China combines it with nickel to make the case, and then it's shipped to Canada, where they make the Toyota Priuses, and then it's shipped back to the UK, where they're sold in this country. So they travel all around the world, from Africa to China to Canada, back to here. And people go, "Oh, I'm good for the environment, aren't I? But I buy an electric car."
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, you know nothing.
Oh.
You okay there?
Yeah,
Chuck around the wires.
I'm okay. I'm not much good to you today, am I? I'm really not.
Oh, it's fine. Everyone has their off days.
Yeah.
But yeah, the electric cars are not environmentally friendly. What is electricity?
This was the whole thing. So something. Oh dear.
Where is
it was discovered by a man called Nikola Tesla, who's possibly the best scientist
the world has ever seen.
And Edison bought the patents off of him. And when he discovered this, he said, "This is for the people." In other words, free. This is for the people. Edison bought the patents off of him, and he said, "I'm going to develop this and charge money for it," which he did. And there was a thing he said that, technicality. Edison said you have to have two things to go, like AC and DC, you know, to go with it. Edison said, "No, the whole thing is dangerous, so we're not going to use it." He said, "No, if you have the two, it's her." Well, we're going to show you how dangerous it is. They took certain animals, dogs, things like that, and electrocuted them. And then they took a beautiful old elephant that had been working in a circus all its life. And they took out this beautiful beast and they electrocuted it. And it was on public display, like, you know, a show. I saw that on the internet a couple of days ago, and I think it made me ill. It was too awful. This was the guy had all the patents, and he wanted to do it his way and say, "Oh, this is my discovery. You know, now you can light up the place, and we're charging money for it."
Well,
he died. Tesla died in poverty in a low-class hotel in New York. Quite early on in life, he didn't make gold bones, but he was a magnificent man.
All of Nikola Tesla's inventions, they're all still existing. They all still exist.
Absolutely.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I told you about this already, but do you know who owns all of Nikola Tesla's machines?
Trump?
Donald Trump's uncle.
Yeah,
Isn't that strange?
yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, because Trump's uncle was there when Tesla was alive, and they were having the patents off of him. Also, Tesla traced electricity right back to the pyramids.
Oh yeah, the pyramids used electricity as well.
Yeah,
But a lot of people don't know that.
most people don't know.
Most
too
people
much,
don't know
do
that.
they?
Hang on a minute. Nikola Tesla. How old was Nikola? Nikola. What? Okay. That's very surprising. He died in the Yorker Hotel. Yes, in New York.
Yeah.
That you mentioned. He
And
was alive. Were you born?
Hmm?
Yeah. Hang on a minute. You were alive at the same time as Nikola Tesla.
Yes, I believe I was.
He died in 1943. You were born in 1939.
Yes. Yeah. Magnificent man, you know. What can you say about a person like that? I mean, so unselfish. So unselfish, wanted absolutely nothing for himself at all.
I've been quite shocked by that. That's strange to think about.
He wound up feeding the pigeons in the park, and he'd take the odd one back if it was damaged and get it well in his hotel room. That's how a magnificent brain like that wound up.
Nikola Tesla didn't even die 80 years ago. He died 78 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I
forget how young you are.
Crazy.
I take this stuff for granted that you know, and you're so young, but you're doing so well.
Yeah.
And being dyslexic, this knowledge could not possibly have come easily to you.
No.
You worked very hard for what you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And over the restaurant, you loaned me your glasses. They're very special glasses, aren't they?
Yes. I'm long-sighted in one eye and short-sighted in the other.
Yes, because it seemed like everything was going in a line to me. I suppose the glasses, they help your dyslexia?
No, they don't actually. I was offered them, but I didn't like them.
Uh-huh.
They were yellow stained glass to help me read better, and I didn't like it. It didn't work.
And if they didn't work, it's no good.
Well, they worked when I was reading, but to have the constant yellow stain all around you, it was not nice.
Really? No.
Yeah, because the glass was yellow.
Uh-huh.
So going to the shops, everything would be yellow. It was not. I didn't like it. It was annoying. So I decided not to.
Will your dyslexia get better?
Probably not, no. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think it's. Well, it'll get better. It won't get worse.
Uh-huh.
But I won't see a substantial change.
Uh-huh.
It's just sort of where it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it is. I can't
Are you happy?
really change it. Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Sorry.
Mind you, your new girlfriend helps, doesn't she?
Yes.
How is she?
Good. Yes,
Yeah.
we're going. Everything's going great.
Lovely.
Yeah. But what was I
You
going to
must
say?
bring her down here on the show. Is she too shy?
No, I am.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
But no, not many of my family know what I do. I just tell them, I work for a media company. They don't actually know I do this.
Oh,
A lot of them.
you're doing a very good job.
Yeah.
A very, very good job. I'd brag about it if I were you. Well, I should brag on your behalf.
Thank you. Well,
So what are we going to do about this world situation? Come on.
I don't know what we can do. That's a very difficult question to answer. But I was going to say about I don't know.
Hello.
What do you do? What can you do?
Do you like to be on television?
Pardon?
Huh?
Pardon, what was that?
Would you like to be on television?
Where were we? Well, we'll go to a short clip so we can regain. We'll go to Grange Park, just down the road.
Okay. I mean, that was.
So, sorry. Welcome back. We just went to a short break, and whilst in the break, me and Liza were talking that what was it you were saying? You were taking things for granted. You think?
Yes. I mean, I saw the Queen's coronation. I remember that vividly. I remember when Charles was born. I was 10 years of age.
You've lived through
when he
4
was born.
monarchs.
Yes, and I take it all for granted. I never look back and say, wow, and you're mentioning Tesla, he died in my lifetime. So much has happened that I assume that everybody knows, and of course they don't.
No, well, especially I'm only 18 years old.
Yes.
I mean, so who is it? I think Stuart was asking me about the 2008 financial crisis. He says, "What do you remember from the 2008 financial crisis?" I go, "I don't know, nothing."
No.
He goes, "You don't remember anything?" I go, "No." Well, 2008, I would have been 5.
Yeah.
And he was like,
nothing.
"Oh, okay."
No, you see, yeah, even Stuart, he forgets how young you are.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, even Keith does, and sometimes you, but yeah,
You're doing pretty good.
It's
You
yeah.
are really doing pretty good. Obviously, you have an inexhaustible thirst for knowledge.
Yes, I do. Well, I've mentioned to you before that I listen. I'm constantly consuming information. I listen to podcasts all the time. I have a 4-hour-a-day bus journey to get here.
Yeah.
2 hours each way. It's which is long,
Mm-hmm.
but I am just listening to podcasts that whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I usually listen to people like the Lotus Eaters, a local channel based in Swindon.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Jones is very good. I usually listen to him
What
on the
about
bus.
David Icke? My lovely David.
I know. I haven't watched much of his.
Yeah.
So,
to me, he's a champion.
Yeah. Who else I watch?
Because I've been studying him for the last 30 years.
Yeah. You've been following.
I'm a disciple
for 30
of his. Yeah,
years.
30 years, a long, long time. Yeah. And when everything that the man's predicted has come to pass, I know that I've had a very good education from him. Yeah. Mind you, when I discovered him, I felt I knew it all anyway. He's just reaffirmed it.
Right.
He's a historian, probably the best historian in the world. That's what he does.
And I can't wait to meet him.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Hopefully you can do your second interview with him, and I'll be there, and that'd be very interesting. Would love to meet David Icke.
David,
What's
if
he
you're
like?
out there, you got to meet my friend here, Max.
What's David Icke like in person?
Oh, he's just a lovely human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's exactly this. When he's ranting and raving on there, you still get you're in the presence of a formidable, lovely human being. You know, it comes right through the whole thing. And to meet him, he's exactly the same.
He's the same person on camera as off camera.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yes. I arranged to meet him with my cameraman and friend Tony Johnstone in the car parking lot of one of the hotels there on the Isle of Wight. And Tony and I were standing there, and he drove up in his car, and Tony said, "Here he is." He recognized the car from Picture Publicity. He got out, he saw us, and he put his arms out, "Liza," like that, you know? I ran over and he gave me a big hug. "Hello, how are you doing?" You know, he didn't know me. Really cracking guy. And then he said, "Where would you like to shoot this?" So we said, "Well, it's your island. You know, we don't really know. We should have done. Of course we should have done, you know." So he said, "Well, look, I've got a couple of chairs in the back of my car." He said, "Put your gear in here." And he said, "I'll drive you somewhere nice." And he drove through all these beautiful leafy lanes, because I'd never been to the Isle of Wight before.
Oh, really?
And then we wound up on his favorite spot on the island. It was a cliff that overlooked, you know, the bay with the boats and the whole thing. And we were setting up, and 4 great big black cows came and visited us, looked over. Unfortunately, Tony didn't get them on film, which was awful. Anyway, we were a long time setting up, because we had a couple of cameras. And so it was good, because I had more time to talk to him. And then we sat down, we did the show, and it was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Well, you can see this on my Everyone Has a Story channel.
How long ago did you interview David Icke?
Oh, it must be 5 years ago now.
Really?
5 years ago, yes. And my Everyone Has a Story with Liza Page, you can see his work on there.
Almost.
It was really a terrific experience meeting somebody. And I always knew that I would meet him sometime. I had sixth sense. And now he's possibly, I'm pretty sure, he's the most important man in all of Britain.
How did you come across David Icke in the first place?
I read his first book, yes. Yeah, and I didn't see his humiliation on television, you know, with the show he did. And I wouldn't have liked to see that.
Whose show was that? That was
Terry Wogan.
Terry Wogan, yeah.
Yeah, not a very nice man. And then I went abroad and came back, you know, and he was still on the scene and the whole bit. And then I really got into his stuff when we had a channel 200, which was a spin-off of the BBC, and you had all these alternative speakers on, some really cracking people. And David was on. David's on, you know, fantastic. And I used to watch this pretty much every day, and then they took it off. They took it off naturally, you know. So, yeah. And anyway, yeah, it was a marvelous experience meeting him. And in my book, the man is insurpassable. Of course, he's been banned everywhere. But the new iconic channel that he set up with his 2 sons, so first class, it really is.
Yeah.
Absolutely first class. He's doing some fine work there, and they're all working very, very hard.
Well, with David Icke and Alex Jones had to set up his own servers, because not only did he get banned from every social media platform, he got banned from the servers. So he couldn't upload anything of his to the Google servers or the Amazon servers. There's only about 4 different companies that own the servers, and they're all in cahoots with each other.
Yeah.
They all think the same way, and he was banned from the internet servers. So he had to set up his own server system to get online.
It must have cost him a fortune.
It cost him hundreds of thousands of pounds, of dollars.
Yeah. And now they're trying to stop those too, aren't they?
Yeah.
By fining them astronomical amounts of money, so that virtually no one can afford to do that. But we will find a way. Oh yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I've been watching Alex Jones for about 6 years. I started watching him when I was 13. Yikes! That's why I'm the way I am today. But I really started listening to him in about 2018, after the incident happened, when the police came to check my thinking.
Yes.
That was insane. That's when I went, hang on a minute.
Check my
Hang
thinking.
on a minute.
And that covers a lot of ground, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Check somebody's thinking. It gets more and more terrifying.
It does. And that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
What's going on now?
Exactly. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Right, I've had enough. I'm going home.
We've got a little bit left.
I've got to digest all this. It's mental.
We'll go to a short clip. We'll go to scenes in Sussex. We'll do that. And then
Okay.
we'll come back. And then we'll have 5 minutes left. Okay. See you in a minute. Okay, and we're back.
Hello. Hello.
We have about 5 minutes left. Is there any specific topic you'd like to round off on? Anything to drive home specifically? What's like the most important thing we've spoken about today to round the day off?
Well, it's my old chestnut which haunts me from morning till dusk. This reset. It's the most terrifying experience I think that anybody can go through. You know, I've been on the planet a long, long time, and if this happens, I don't think I'll be around for it.
Well, there we go. That's the thing. I think you will, because this is all coming about in the magical year of 2030, where everything's going to happen.
I think it's going to happen quicker than that.
I think you will definitely be around to see it.
Well, we'll see. I wish there was something I could do. I wish there was something that I could do to explain to people that we must not allow this to happen. Guide me in any direction, but please, I'm not going to be around forever. While I'm here, put me to work. Will you tell me what I've got to do?
Well, that's the issue. No one knows what to do until it's too late. when everyone goes, well, we should have done this. We should have done
Well,
this. How did
people
we not
think
see
it's
this?
too late now, and it is not too late.
Well,
I
you
promise
saw-
you, it is never too late.
You saw lockdowns coming through the David Icke channel, didn't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That must have been very strange for you because you mentioned it last time, and I just can't get over how hilarious of a scene it must have been.
Well, for years and years, I have been sprouting the pearls of wisdom of David Icke, and it's easy. This is something you've read, but when you actually experience that your pearls of wisdom are now coming to the fore and being acted out, is terrifying.
Mm.
It's frightening to put out this information, but when it all happens,
Well, what must have been strange, and I still can't get over how funny it would have been picturing it and how I would have reacted. But you went out. You obviously don't listen to the BBC.
no, I will not pollute my mind. No,
But
it's dangerous.
You went out one day, and everything was locked down, and you hadn't been watching the news, and you didn't know what was going on.
No, I mean, no, down the estate. No, I got up there. The streets were deserted. Right, there was no traffic on the road. I walked into town. I'm looking for somebody. I said, well, where am I? Am I ill or something? And then I walked down to Waitrose, and it's all portioned off, where
When
you can stand and what you. And there's
when they had the 2 meter rule.
Yes,
Mm.
and there's a current bun effect of people standing around. At that particular time, they weren't wearing the mask then. And you could only sort of, get in, what is this? And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, David Icke has been predicting this for years.
But you didn't know the news that we were going into lockdown.
No.
So you went out one day and it was lockdown.
Yes.
That must have been, I just can't imagine that situation, how I would have
But to
reacted.
bring a whole country into lockdown
And everyone,
in 48 hours, the way they did it, with nobody expecting it,
and
nothing.
nobody questioning it.
And nobody questioning. Don't tell me that this wasn't planned a long, long time ago.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Of course it was. Well, Liza, we've had a very, very good show today.
It's been cracking.
This
I
is,
hope I haven't come on too strong because
You haven't. But
no, I look at
we've
me,
been doing this for 4 weeks now. We've been doing this for a month. This is the fourth one.
Yeah.
It's been a month already. It's crazy. It's gone very quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. I always look forward to Thursdays because I know you're coming in and we have great conversations
Thank you.
about what life used to be like and how different things have changed and everything we talk about. It's
And
always
you and I will
interesting.
change the world, won't we? Of course we will.
Maybe.
Well, we'll try.
We'll try.
Hey, listen,
All right.
thank you very much. Out
Thank you
there.
very much.
Thank you very much indeed for watching.
So
Bye-bye.
tune in tomorrow at 8:30. Keith will be back from 8:30 till 11. We will see you tomorrow.